What's up, y'all? It's your girl Iamtlouise, and you are tuned in to Twisted 20s. Today's podcast episode is sponsored by my company, Passion to Paper Academy, where we specialize in branding for small businesses. And you can check out some of our services at passiontopaperacademy.com. Welcome back to Twisted 20s, y'all. I know Monday's podcast episode did not come out. Your girl was dealing with technical difficulties. I had to get a new port and everything for my podcast, but it was just a lot going on. I just came off of a 3-day fast, no food, nothing but just water, tea, and it was just so much going on, and I just really need to kind of take a step back and put together everything that God needed me to put together for the rest of this season. I am so excited. This season is coming to a slow end, but it's truly been an amazing journey. I'm just watching the lives that Twisted 20s is impacting, and the views, the listeners. It's just all skyrocketing. And I'm just so appreciative, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so thankful for every single person that is listening to Twisted 20s. I love you guys. Today's podcast episode kind of ties into everything that I've been talking about as far as every single episode that we've done so far this season, from being stuck in between who you are called to be, letting go of the things that no longer serve you, the purpose behind your purpose. But today I specifically want to talk about the truth behind God's elevation in your life, because God is truly calling you for more. And I talked about all of those things before, because all of those things tie in to God truly calling you for more. But there's a truth behind his elevation, and a lot of people may not talk about that, but we're going to get into it on today's podcast episode. So y'all already know what it is. We finna go ahead and get into today's podcast episode. All right, y'all. So welcome back to Twisted 20s. I'm so excited that you guys are showing out the way y'all are showing out with Twisted 20s. I truly appreciate it. I love, and I'm just so grateful for each and every single one of you guys who are supporting me on this Twisted 20s journey. It is just a blessing. It's just a blessing. All right, y'all. So y'all know all these episodes that I've been doing for this purpose chasing series. It's all tied in together. And today's episode kind of ties into everything that I previously been talking about, from all the way down to when I gave y'all my deliverance testimony, the purpose behind your purpose, letting go of things that no longer serve you. And it's really, I would say, being stuck in between who you are called to be and who you've always known, letting go of the things that no longer serve you, and a visit to the past kind of tie into today's episode, because all of those things tie into God calling you for more. I'm going to be giving you guys my truth and what I feel like the truth is behind God's elevation in your life, because oftentimes, I feel like people think, okay, I'm going to turn my life to Christ, I'm going to follow him, I'm going to do what he says, and then you just magically have the life of your dreams. But that is not true. I'm not saying that God will not bless you. I'm not saying that God will not prosper you in your life, but I'm just saying that at some point God is going to place you in a wilderness, because with elevation comes a wilderness. Okay, the wilderness is not so bad. I've been in a wilderness for a year. I haven't really realized I was in the wilderness until about 9 months ago, after I had my first mental breakdown. I had my first mental breakdown in January, and it scared me. A little bit after that, I started going to therapy, and that's when I really started on my journey with Christ, because I knew that I couldn't do what I was doing by myself. I needed that extra thing in my life, and that was God. And so I had to make it a point in my life to just stop running. And that's going to be the first step, is to just stop running, because ultimately what you are running to and what you are running away from is always going to be worse than what you are running from. Like, let me rephrase that. What you are running to and what you are running away from is always going to be worse than what you are running from that God has called you to. So let me rephrase that. That would probably be a better statement. I'm going to say that one more time because I want you to understand it. What you, keyword and emphasis on you, what you are running to and what you are running from is always worse than what you are running from that God has called you for. And this is something that I really had to get in my head, because I was running from being consistent with my podcast. I was running from the things that God kept placing on my heart. And I was running from these things because I was so used. And I was so in the middle. I was stuck in between who I've always known and who He was calling me to be. But like I said, with elevation comes a wilderness. The wilderness is where God places you to detox all of those things that He needs to get out of you. All that hurt, all that trauma, all that pain that you have been attached to for your entire life. That is what the wilderness is for, because God never wants to embarrass you. That's why He places you in the wilderness. Y'all, if y'all could see some of the things that I've been through these past 9 months, some of the pain that I've experienced emotionally, some of the mental breakdowns that I've experienced. He don't want nobody to know about that. He doesn't want people to see that. That's why He places you in a wilderness, so that it's just you and Him. You and Him. The wilderness is so that you can get closer to Him, so that He is the only thing that you are focused on. We get so consumed with our lives. We get so consumed with our jobs. We get so consumed with the things of this world. And then we put God on the back burner and then wonder why our lives are the way that they are. Crickets. It just got so quiet when I said that. Like, in my room, I could just literally hear a pin drop when I said that. Because it's like, and when I do these podcasts, y'all, like, I'm not just talking to y'all. I'm talking to myself too, because I was this way. I was so consumed with wanting to grow my business. I was so consumed with money and finances and all of these things. And God is like, well, what about me? What about me? You keep focusing on these things because you're running away from what I've called you for. And trust and believe that whatever God has called you for. See, this is the thing. I was so consumed with my finances that I was running away from what God called me for. I do my podcast for free. I don't get paid to do this. But I know that eventually, who knows what could come from this. But I'll never know if I don't do it. I enjoy doing my podcast. I love doing my podcast. I love helping others. So I'm being so focused on a business where I'm barely making ends meet, trying to understand how to build it. But instead, God is telling me, I need you to do this right now. I need this to be your focus right now. Don't worry about that. I'm going to supply what you need. God has never left my side. He has continued to provide and protect for me. So why are you focused on that? This is what I need you to focus on. So for 3 days, I did a 3-day water fast. No food, no TV, no social media, nothing. Just water, herbal teas. I had one smoothie out of the 4 days that I did this fast. Nothing. When I say God was able to cleanse me of things that were going on eternally that I didn't even realize that was really going on. There was something that was really holding me and anchoring me, dealing with my mom's death, that I didn't even really understand until I did this fast. Because I decided to actually stop running. God had been calling me to do a fast for a long time. And I never would go through with it. I never would actually complete it. My flesh would always give in. And oftentimes it really even wouldn't be my flesh. Like, I would just be like, okay, forget it. But I got to a point where I really was like, okay, I really want to know God. I really want to understand what it is that God truly needs me to do, because I know that God is calling me for more. So I ask you this. What are you doing in this current moment that God is asking you to just stop? What are you doing in this current moment that God is just asking you to just give up for a small amount of time? Maybe it's that Netflix series you've been binging. Maybe it's those video games you play till sun up to sundown. Maybe it's you wasting your time watching YouTube videos all day. Or better yet, maybe it's you wasting your time being consumed with a business that God is going to bless. But first, he needs you to focus on him, because he's calling you for more. And I understand that when he's calling you for more, nothing else will work out until you give your focus and your time to him. I was so busy, consumed, trying to build passion to paper, when I was barely giving any time to God. The moment I started giving time to God, and I'm not saying do this so that you can get what you want, because it's not about getting what you want. It's about you building a relationship with God. But in return, Jesus will always take care of his kids. God will always take care of his children, because that's what a dad does. He will always continue to provide for you. But what are you willing to give up so that you can allow yourself to be elevated? You're going to be placed in a wilderness. So if you're going through a tough time right now and you feel like life is just, you just down in the dumps, don't nothing seem like it's going right, I guarantee you 100% you in the wilderness. But you didn't realize you was in the wilderness. You just thought life, you just thought life was hard. You felt like God done forgot about you. No, you in the wilderness. And it's time for you to actually realize you're in a wilderness and surrender everything to God, because that's what the wilderness is for. For you to surrender and for you to be cleansed and healed from the things that God needs to heal and cleanse out of you before he takes you to the next level. Because some of those traits, some of those personalities that you got, you can't take with you. And it's simple as that. It can't go where you're going. God is calling you for more. And you need to trust the wilderness. Trust him. And I'm only speaking from experience. The 3-day fast that I did, I really thought it was going to be hard. Boy, that first and second day, my stomach was growling. I was so hungry. The second day I had a smoothie because that's how hungry I was. And I had a smoothie because I didn't want to eat. I had a smoothie with herbal tea in it. So that was how I showed my dad, my father, God, that I wanted this. I gave up food. I gave up TV. I gave up video games. I gave up everything. Everything that I enjoyed to prove to him that I want whatever it is that you're calling me for. He's calling you for more. And this is the truth behind it. Some of us don't want to give up TV. Some of us don't want to give up that relationship. Some of us don't want to give up that job. Because we so busy. Well, how are we going to do this? How am I going to be able to afford this? We asking the wrong questions. You asking the wrong questions. The question should be, is what do you need me to do? What is my assignment? every time God calls you for more, he's going to place you in a wilderness. And it's not going to be easy. I was reading in Exodus about, when he took the Israelites out of Egypt. And what really got me about Exodus is Moses, Moses was a Hebrew who lived in Egypt, but he was raised by Pharaoh's daughter, because in the time period that Moses was born, they were supposed to be killing all the boys and things like that. And Moses' mother didn't want him to be killed, so she put him in a basket. He floated, and the servants of Pharaoh's daughter saw the baby boy, and Pharaoh's daughter raised Moses as her own. And it was really something that really got me in the book of Exodus, because it's like God will place you in a certain situation for a reason. Moses was in the right place at the right time, because that's where God needed him to be. God orders our steps. Nothing is by coincidence. Everything is already designed. It's already set in stone. Moses, he ended up freeing, he was sent in to free the Israelites. But the thing that got me was in the beginning, when Moses actually killed one of the Egyptians because he had abused one of the Israelites. Moses had killed him and buried him in the sand. And then two of the Israelites were fighting, and Moses was like, why y'all doing this? Like, y'all brothers, like, y'all homies. And the Israelite was like, well, what you gonna do about it? Like, are you gonna kill me like you killed the Egyptian? And when I read that, my first initial thought was, why y'all snitching? Like, he one of y'all. So, Moses had to flee because, Pharaoh was trying to kill him after he found out about that. And then, some time later, God sent the same person that they were mistreating, the same person that they were rude to, in to save them. And the whole entire time that Moses was trying to save them, all they did was complain. And it really makes me think that's how a lot of us are in our wilderness time. All the Israelites did when they was in the wilderness was complain to Moses. Oh, well, Moses, ask God to do this. Ask him to do this. We're hungry. We're tired. We're this, we're that. That's all they did was complain. Instead of actually realizing that they weren't even slaves anymore. Like, they were slaves to the Egyptians. And instead of being grateful and joyful about that, they complained about where they were. Not even realizing that where they were going to a land flowing with milk and honey, meaning a prosperous city. Somewhere where with food, with glorious amount of things. And they were so focused on where they were in the wilderness that they couldn't even realize where they had came from. I remember at one point, they had even said, you should have left us in Egypt. And I got to a point like that in my wilderness period. Oh, I wish I was still. And it's like, when I really look back on it, it's like, where God really brought me from to where I'm at now, I really should be grateful. And reading that, and this revelation just came to me as I'm recording this, y'all, because when I read this, I really didn't look at it like that. I had a whole different revelation. But this particular revelation has to do with this podcast episode. And I really just sitting here thinking about that. Like, they were so ungrateful. And that's how a lot of us are. Is we're so ungrateful, and we don't even realize that God has brought us through way worse. And where we are going is way better than where we were. And some of us really would prefer to go back to where we were because the wilderness gets hard. But I'm here to tell you today, okay, what you are running to and what you are running from is way worse than what you are running from that God has called you for. You want to go back to where you were? I've said it before on my other episodes. Because the purpose behind your purpose, the reason that God is calling you, the reason that God is calling you for more, is because there is something that you are going through. There is something that you have experienced in your life. There is a gift that God has placed on the inside of you that someone else needs. There is something that God needs to use you for to help someone else. So instead of complaining in your wilderness, instead of complaining and being ungrateful and wishing that you were back where you were because this is too hard, y'all, I really wish I had somebody like me. I actually do. Jerry Flowers. I talk about him all the time on my podcast, y'all. But for real though, Jerry be spitting facts, okay? Jerry breaks it down in a way that him and his wife both, like, they are just blessed. They have blessed my life, and they have just helped me to really understand things. And he always says it, like, your purpose is tied to somebody else's breakthrough. So you making it through your wilderness, it's always tied to someone else's breakthrough. Your wilderness is not just for you. I don't care what you gotta do. If you gotta say, I'm doing this for my cousin, I'm doing this for my mama, I'm doing this for my brother, I'm doing this for my daughter, my son, whatever it is, you are doing this for someone else. Like, I cannot like emphasize this anymore. Your purpose is always tied to someone else. The reason why God is calling you for more is because of someone else. We are placed on this earth to serve. Everything that we do is going to be to serve someone else. So, from one person who was selfish, and don't get me wrong, y'all, I still can be selfish, but I'm also selfless in a lot of ways too. It's not always about you. It's not always about what you want to do. It's not always about your plans. It's not always about you. It's always going to be about, how can I serve the next person? How can I help the next individual? I encourage any of you who are listening to this podcast, if you have made it this far, because I understand that people's attention spans are not as long as they used to be. But if you are listening to this podcast and you have made it this far, I want you to know that if nobody else believes in you, God does. That's the first thing. And so do I. Because for someone who felt like that they were never capable of doing a 3-day water fast with no food, and I was able to complete 4 days, I'm telling you, you are completely capable of making it through your wilderness. You will survive your wilderness, and you will come out on the other side, and you will reach your place of flowing with milk and honey. Because God has a promise for you, and He will always fulfill His promises, because He's just a father. He's just a dad who does exactly what He says. Another thing on my fast that I got, with my earthly dad, the dad that I had, he never really was in my life like that. He never really was the father that he should have been. And God revealed something to me that while I was on my fast, he told me that even though your earthly father didn't show you the example that he should have shown you, I did. I was there. I've always protected you. I've always provided for you. Even when you stepped outside of my will, I've always been there protecting you and providing for you. And that is truth. So if he is always there protecting us and providing us and being the dad that he is, what makes you think that he won't protect and provide for you during your wilderness period? And what makes you think that where he's taking you is not going to be way better off than where you are right now? Oftentimes, where we are right now is our will. But if we just surrender to his will, life would be so much better. Because now we're not fighting his will for our lives. I hope this episode is able to reach the person that it truly needs to reach. And I just pray that you trust your wilderness period. And I pray that you finally stop running. Because God is truly calling you for more. I really would like to connect with you guys. I really would like to know if my episodes have been impacting anyone's lives, how you guys are feeling about Twisted 20s, anything like that. So feel free to DM me on all my social medias, Twisted 20s Podcast, Instagram, or my personal Instagram. Heck, even Passionate Paper, I'll even answer on there. I will leave all the links in the description, you guys. Please, please, please let me know what you guys think about this particular series. And we will be getting into a new series here in a couple weeks. And I'm just excited. I'm just excited with where Twisted 20s is going. And I love you guys. And I hope today's episode has been as impactful as this wilderness period has been for my life. I love you guys. Peace, love, and blessings. Iamtlouise.